Thank you. I just click the button record. So after this, I will also send you the recording. And now I'm going to click on the button to go live on LinkedIn.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
Boom.
Oh, perfect.
Wow. Awesome. How's the audio on my end?
Perfect.
Okay. Fantastic.
I'm going to pull up the LinkedIn page as well, just so I can kind of see both sides.
Yeah.
Mute this page.
There's like a few seconds delay on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
This is so great. Thank you.
Carlos, are you also looking at the LinkedIn stream as well? Or you're just going to be here?
I'm here.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, I think I found it. All right. I think we have about 20 people tuned in. So we'll just give it a few minutes.
Yeah. I would say if you want to share it on your Slack community, I'm going to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Will do.
All right.
We are live. Thank you so much for everyone that's already tuned in. We're so excited to see you. Post in the chat box where you're calling in from.
This is exciting. Thank you all for coming. We'll get started in about 2 minutes. We're just waiting for everyone to trickle in from our community and from LinkedIn as well. Carlos, just curious, is there a way, because currently on the LinkedIn, I see a speaker view, so that when Grace is talking, it's just Grace taking up the screen while I'm talking, it's just me. So if there's a way we can, all three of us can be on the screen at the same time.
Yeah, I just switched to gallery view.
Perfect, thank you. Oh, we got someone from Brazil, Texas, Nigeria, oh my gosh. San Diego, wow. David.
SoCal, Nigeria, Texas, Brazil. Wow, look at all the product buds. Hey, Joelle, nice to see you. Oh my gosh, love it, love it. Happy to see so many product buds.
We got Israel, wow. Carlos, well, how's your day going so far?
Great, not bad for a casual Saturday.
Yeah, nice.
Nice to be with you guys.
How's your day been? What did you do this morning? Do you have like a morning routine, Carlos?
I do, but the weekend routine is different.
Oh.
Weekday routine.
Right.
I would say weekday routine is much more intense.
What's your weekday routine?
So I like to wake up reasonably early and meditate for like 5 minutes, nothing crazy, but just to try to wake up and in a smooth way. And then other than obviously eating and taking a shower, I like to plan the day. Before I start, just shooting emails or cranking tasks, I like to take a few 15 to 20 minutes to plan the day with my team. Mm-hmm. Then we have a daily stand-up with the executive team just to make sure that the day is on track, not just for myself, but for the rest of the teams. And then we go.
Wow.
And then I like to work out in the afternoon. It's almost a way for me to relax, to force myself to close the computer and disconnect a little bit.
Right. Definitely. I also have a similar routine, and I like to work out in the afternoons after work is over. It gives me that time to separate the work hours and the more relaxed hours.
All right, I think we should get started. We have about 50 people tuned in. I'm assuming they'll trickle in as we go. So thank you everybody for coming out today. This is Product Buds and Product School joint event, Ask a Product Bud, where we bring on a product leader from the industry just to ask some of the questions that you all have submitted. And so we had a Google Drive form where we had some pre-submitted questions. So we're going to go through those first. And then we're going to have someone from our team post a link to our Slido website where you can submit your own questions now to be answered at the end of the event. So thank you for coming out. Thank you, Carlos, for joining us.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Yay, thank you. So before we get started, let's do a brief round of introductions, and I'll start. Hello, everyone. My name is Grace, and I'm a rising senior at Northeastern University in Boston, and I'm a current product manager intern at Salesforce. While I love my day job, I've been channeling my passion for uplifting aspiring product managers outside of work through co-founding and growing the Product Buds community. Thank you all again for tuning in and supporting this Product Buds and Product School collab event. Now I'll pass it to my awesome teammate, Joseph, for his intro.
Hey everyone, this is Joseph. Thanks for coming out. I'm a current senior at Emory University studying marketing and information system. And I was actually working as a product manager intern before I quit that to do this full time for Product Buds. And so for Product Buds, I'm the director of growth and marketing, just working on different events like this, working on our LinkedIn handles and a bunch of other things. But super excited to do this. Thank you, Carlos. And if you can give your intro, that'd be awesome.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I'm the founder and CEO of Product School. I love building teams and products. And when you reached out, I connected with the same level of passion that you guys have. So happy to also participate in your community and help as many student and aspiring product managers as possible.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Carlos. And for everyone who doesn't know, Carlos is just phenomenal. He, as he mentioned, CEO and founder of Product School, which is a global leader in product management training with a community of over 1 million product professionals. He's an entrepreneur with over 10 years of experience building global companies and digital products. So if you are excited to be hearing all the golden nuggets of wisdom that Carlos is about to drop in this call, please type in hashtag Product School and hashtag Product Buds in the chat. We want to see you blowing up the chat. And without further ado, let's go into the questions for Carlos. And so I'll start and ask Carlos the first question about his career journey. So Carlos, can you tell us about what initially drew you into product management and what those early stages of that journey looked like for you?
Great question, because back in the day, I had no idea what product management was. So almost instead of knowing my solution, I also knew things that I didn't want to do. So I started computer science. And I enjoyed coding and tinkering with products, but at some point, and soon enough in my career, I realized I didn't want to spend the rest of my life just coding. I wanted to do something with it. Like, it's not like I wanted to give up the technical background, but I wanted to maybe build companies, build digital products, contribute to other teams that are not just engineering. And back in the day, product management wasn't really that obvious. So I decided to start a few companies on the side. I was doing the right thing, which is going to college, getting my degree, but at the same time, I was always, playing around with tech and the internet and everything. So after a few years, then I decided to go to business school. That was almost the only available alternative, I would say, at least for me. So I'm from Spain, and I decided to use all my savings. I didn't have a house, didn't have a car, I didn't waste my money basically. So I put everything into education and coming to Silicon Valley, which for me was my dream. I just wanted to be close to where things happen in tech. And I did this program in global business management at UC Berkeley. And that was transformational for me, not that much because of the content itself. I think it's because of the people and the environment in general. So I had two breakthroughs. The first one was that there were a lot of people like myself that came from a technical background and were thinking business, which was like, okay, great. I'm not the only one here that has the same problem. And the second breakthrough for me was that there were other people with a very different background tackling the same problem in a different way. So there were management consultants, people from finance, marketing, business in general, who also wanted to build businesses or digital products. Maybe they didn't have that strong technical expertise, but they had something else. So in a way, we were both coming from different angles, trying to do the same thing, which is building digital products. And after my experience in business school, but also working in product management for other companies and starting others, I realized that, oh my God, I've spent 10 years of my life really doing a lot of cool stuff. And none of this really was learned in school. How is this possible? So it was my realization. I was like, I want to build a product school, which is a hybrid in between an engineering school and a business school who gets the best out of both worlds and it's also practical and efficient. Like one of the biggest things to me, I am very passionate about education and lifelong learning. I don't understand why the system is set up in a way that you are a full-time student until your mid-20s, and then you're a full-time employee or worker for the rest of your life. Well, what if you can do both at the same time, whenever, however, right? So for me, it was very important that if people came to product school, they were able to keep their life, their job. So all the activities, programs, events, all the stuff that we organize is always on weeknights or on weekends. So, that's the same applies to our instructors. Every single leader who teaches at product school, it's an amazing product manager at companies such as yours, Salesforce or Uber, Google, Airbnb. So it's also a good setup for them to be able to do their thing, but at the same time to give back to the community.
That's a great point, Carlos. I like how you mentioned, like a lot of the skills that you use in real life, you don't learn at school at all. And so you were able to build that hybrid environment, between product technology, and the business school, right? And for product school. So big props, we appreciate what you're doing for the community. But for the product school, as a product school CEO, right? What are some biggest challenges that you might face while you're doing that role as a day-to-day position?
Well, I treat my company as a product in a way. I love building products, and I think that's a mindset more than just a tool or a technology. So when we started, this is 6 years ago, we were very little. It was literally a bootstrap business where I was personally running all the classes. I was the instructor. I created the first version of the curriculum. Now the curriculum is very, very different. Of course, we actually started teaching in person in San Francisco. And then we expanded to 16 different campuses around the world. We opened an online campus, and thank God, because now all of our trainings are delivered fully online and live, which I think is a big part of it. But to your question, for me, it's always about making sure that we can grow in a sustainable way by keeping quality high. And I say quality, it's one of our core values, because I think that sometimes this education, it's something that you can't just play with. Like at the end of the day, people are investing time and money into their future. They are taking our certifications because they want to get a job in product management, or because they are product managers who want to get that next promotion. So it's a big commitment on their end. And it's very important that they feel satisfied and that we can deliver on our promise to deliver what we said, which is basically you are going to learn best practice in product. We're going to help you get a job. And it's tricky sometimes because we're in an environment where there's a lot of money, right? Like there are VCs that, want to accelerate your business, but sometimes might not be in the right way for your customers. So I made a few intentional decisions early on in my career with product school. One was I want to spend all of my time or most of my time with customers. I started companies before where we raised money and played the game of like growing really, really fast and then figuring out how to monetize, which it's an approach that I respect, but I just it's not my style. So I think it was very important to understand what makes me happy, first of all. And it was, I want to build something that works. I want to make sure my customers are happy. And for that, I need to invest a lot of time on doing things that don't scale. Like literally did everything until I was able to, reinvest some of the profits into hire the next instructor and then the next one and then a team member. But it was always a very high touch approach. Even to this day, which obviously 6 years forward, we are a pretty large community with over 1 million members, and we've graduated over 10,000 product managers. So it's a totally different scale. But those core values that we set up at the beginning of like, let's keep quality high, let's not sacrifice that for, external funding or for like a quick win. It's what makes us sustainable in the long term, because at the end of the day, we're building this for the long term. This is not like a, clickbait type of thing. This is a school. And we are in a way competing with a lot of alternatives that have been around for the longest time, like business schools at the end of the day. In my opinion, are being somehow obsolete, or at least some of their programs, because they're teaching something that is not really applicable. So if you are telling someone, hey, this is a better solution for your career, you need to make sure that you can really deliver on your promise.
A good point. So if you're interested in product management, go check out product school.
Yes. So Carlos, a big part of what you just said, I found, was really establishing the trust of people wanting to get into product management, and establishing trust with them in the sense that you needed to create a very compelling narrative for them to show that product school was that solution for them to help them advance their product careers. But I'm wondering, in the early days of product school, when you were just starting off, how did you have that pitch? How did you create that pitch to build up the trust of people wanting to get into product management to really like buy into the mission of product school and take that leap and take product school courses?
That's a fantastic question, because it's very easy to get tricked with huge visions or PowerPoint presentations that show graphs up and to the right that we are going to take over the world. And I actually took the opposite approach. I said, hey, I am going to make this happen. It's myself, and I'm going to focus exclusively on one thing, which is what I've been doing my entire life, which is building products. Like, I don't think I will be the best instructor in data science or cooking cakes. Like, I cannot fake that. This is a problem that I had in my career that I wish someone had solved for me or helped me. I mean, I was very lucky to have mentors, but it was a very long route. Like, there wasn't a straightforward path to see, hey, I want to become a product manager, and this is the framework that you need to follow, and it's in a short period of time. I didn't have that, so I decided to create it. First was the absolute focus, and then was the total commitment to this. Like, this was a full-time thing since the very beginning. I was 24/7 absolutely involved. I'm still to this day absolutely involved. Like, when you guys reached out, and when I see the opportunity to really help, I try to do it. And if I can't physically, we obviously have a team that I rely on to continue making a bigger impact. But I think that is something that it goes way beyond a PowerPoint. And at this point, I think sharing stories of others to amplify our own voice, because obviously I just can't be everywhere. It's really powerful. So we rely on our community of instructors, community of alumni, and they are all public. So you type Product School on LinkedIn, for example, you can see thousands of graduates, and people reach out to them. And I think that is the best way that someone can learn about the business, directly from someone who used those products or services, not directly from the actual source, because obviously we might be biased.
That's a great point. And, for you, like, supporting, right, and building that relationships first was definitely crucial. For like a quick story about the beginning of Product Buds, when we first launched, right, within the first week, we noticed that Carlos had joined our community on Slack, and all of our team members were really surprised. We're like, wait, did anyone invite him? It's like, no, and it turns out he just joined on his own and gave us an introduction in one of our channels. And so it was very shocking for us as students kind of building this community to see someone like you, hop in without even saying anything. So thank you for that, and for the call as well. That's a great point. Moving on to the next question, I want to kind of get into some top leadership and management philosophies that you hold, and how have those leadership philosophies allowed you to be a great CEO?
Well, that's a very deep question.
Yeah.
and I think it's fair to be wrong, and it's fair to change. Mm-hmm. I've been building companies and teams almost my entire career, over 10 years now, 11. And the way I approach that at the very beginning is very different than the way I approach it now. So I think that keeping an open mind, like a beginner's mindset almost, to really treat yourself as a student, as a lifelong learner, really. It's the way I approach this. Yes, I have very strong convictions about certain things and values, and I think those things are non-negotiable. Where we discussed about quality, something that is core to us, putting students first. It's core to us. Now, the way we deliver the training has changed dramatically. Like, we used to do this in person, now we do it live online, and that's fine. We used to just train aspiring product managers, and now we also do training for experienced product managers. Or like, it's part of the process. Like, there are a lot of companies that really pivot their strategies completely. And it's like something that I personally struggle, because first of all, it almost felt like a failure every time you want to make a big change. So it took me time to feel comfortable with the process, and then make others feel comfortable with it. because when you're a small team and you know every single person, and in some cases you are in the same room, you can make pretty big changes, and it's easier to communicate because we're all there, we know each other very well. But when it gets to a point where, in our case, we are over 50 full-time employees and we are a fully remote team around the world, like some of the decisions that are made when there basically now there are no offices, there are no rooms. So you have to I spend a lot of time over communicating and making sure that others over communicate and create that motion of, hey, yes, we cannot move as fast as when we were 5 people in the same garage, but it's part of the game. But my role right now is execute less and spend more time on communicating, getting the buy-in, and making sure that everyone is aligned. I'm still going to make changes, and everyone knows that. It's not that, oh, we're big, we don't change. No, absolutely. We keep going as fast, if not faster. But I am not the one who is now, implementing every single change.
Right. I love that. And the point that you brought up about product school having over 50 employees and you all working remotely, how have you navigated some of the challenges that are associated with that? Like, communication is definitely very important, like you said, but with different time zones, with people operating under their own schedules, how do you manage some of the challenges associated with that?
But I think there are certain things that you can prepare for, and there are other things that you just learn by doing, by having the right attitude to know that things change and you need to be flexible, right? So in our case, we actually were remote way before COVID happened. So in reality, it hasn't really changed anything internally for us. And I think part of it is also because as an immigrant who had to come to the US, I know what it is to move to a different country, hire people in different countries, work across different time zones. So I've been doing this forever. So it's not a big deal. And the people that, if you meet some of our team members, we have an extremely diverse team. There are people represented from over 25 different countries. And that is very special. And that's something that you can't just fake or force. There are a lot of large organizations who are like, oh my God, we now need diversity. And let's hire a bunch of diverse people to kind of fake or improve our stats. That type of approach it's almost like you arrive too late to the party. I think for us, it was always so key that we saw the value. And I think part of it's also being scrappy, knowing that, hey, we just can't afford to have every single person working in San Francisco or in New York. We also need to, be efficient with our capital. So it's been very organic. Same thing with the live online training. I believe that, first of all, if we sell education, we also need to drink our own champagne. So that means that everyone in the organization has to invest some time into learning. Everyone at Product School has free access to all of our programs. And if we are delivering our trainings live online, we also need to work live online to also be a better advocate for our users. So, it's just not new for us really, but at the same time, it comes from a lot of experimentation and experiences. So I think it's very important for anyone considering to join any type of company to learn a little bit about diversity, about how that company is structured. Usually large organizations who have a big headquarters, if employees are not in those headquarters, sometimes they may feel left out because that's not where the decisions are made. So I think one of the advantages of being a distributed team is that information is also democratized. And the challenge obviously is that you as a company have to invest much more time on communicating and making sure, you can't just put a Slack channel and think that everyone is magically working remotely and everyone is on the same page. But, those are small steps, and then really invest in time. Like, I think for me, the biggest change as moving from product manager to CEO was really understanding that I cannot do everything myself, and that I had to let parts of the business, delegate parts of the business. And some of them are easier to delegate than others. As a product person, product is almost the last thing I want to let go because I love it so much, but it's just a natural next step. If you really want to build a large company, a large community, you need to bring incredible people, and you can't just be micromanaging all the time.
That's a great point, that last point, because to be honest with you, some of our team members at Product Buzz are going through that right now, right? We value what we're doing so much, and we love what we're doing so much that we focus on these needy little details, right? And so when, like, learning how to delegate and really communicate with the rest of the team is definitely crucial, especially in remote learning or in remote like working environments. So thank you for that. Like, going with that topic, right? I want to kind of talk about, when you think of product management and entrepreneurship, how does emotional intelligence play into those two different things when you're founding a company or you're becoming a great product manager?
Well, for me, I think there's a lot of similarities between, especially in tech companies or companies that are building type of digital product, both software or hardware. At the very beginning of the company, your company is your product, right? Because you don't really have that many customers, you don't have that many employees. So the mindset is very similar. Obviously, as your company grows, product is still important, but there is more to it. There is fundraising, if you have it. There is functions like HR, marketing, sales, operations, and legal, many others. So you have to make those decisions. And I think it's very important to know that not everyone has to be a product manager. Not everyone has to be an entrepreneur. It's okay to try, but don't feel forced to do something just because you're in a certain environment, right? I didn't want to raise money even though I was in Silicon Valley. So I think it's important to clarify that. Now, if you want to grow in your career as a manager, so as someone who interacts with other people instead of always executing, instead of as an individual contributor, I think emotional intelligence is what sets you apart. At the very beginning, I didn't even pay much attention because I was small team built. I knew what I was doing. I knew how to do it. So I didn't have to ask for much help. But it gets to a point where you start growing and you just can't do everything yourself. So it's one of those things that if you don't learn, it's going to break you. Now, how do you learn that? Well, it's tricky because yes, you can read books about it, but unless you're feeling that pain, unless you're in a situation as you described, like, oh my God, like Product Buzz is growing. And I just don't have all the time in the world to be fixing a small typo here and there, and at the same time running an AMA and then doing recruiting, whatever it is. So you are in those pivotal moments where you are now caring much more than maybe 2 years ago when you read a book about emotional intelligence. Now you have this awareness, which is telling you, hey, there is a situation here, and you have to make a choice. As a leader in your organization, you have to decide what feels right to me. Do I want to delegate and really try to zoom out a little bit more, even though I'm not used to it, it's fine. Or there's another valid option, which is, do I really love this so much that I want to continue building, in the weeds? In which case, it's probably good to think about, okay, who else can help me to take care of the people or the managerial stuff? We see that in product management. There are two different career paths as well. So usually you start your career as an associate product manager, as Gracie is right now, or a product manager, senior product manager. Those three roles are relatively similar. Just the biggest difference, obviously, the pay and the experience. But it gets to a point where you have to decide if you want to become what's called a group product manager, which at this point is a manager of product managers, or you want to take the other route, which is usually called principal product manager or product lead, which is basically same pay as a group product manager. You don't really, you don't have to sacrifice that, but you are going to be an individual contributor. And that's something that you will have to face at some point and decide.
Certainly. And that decision can be very difficult, but with the guidance of people like yourself and others at Product School, I think that people are much more well-positioned to be able to make some of those decisions. And on the note of product management, we'd love to ask a couple questions for you that would be serving people who are interested in breaking into product management. And so our first question on that topic would be, what advice would you have for someone who just recently found out about product management and is interested in it, but might feel like kind of lost in where they should go to learn or gain skills or position themselves for a PM role? Because there is no one set path, one set playbook for how to do it. Everybody gets into it differently. But what advice would you have for people who are in that position?
Yeah, that's so close to my heart because that's exactly how we started product school. And it's true, like there's nothing official there, right? You can go to Google and type how to become a product manager or how to build a roadmap. It is almost too much information these days. And it's hard to know what's right versus what's not. And you can waste a lot of your time just reading, but not doing. So I think that you can start right now and might not be perfect. You may not have all the knowledge in the world. You may not have all the skills that you need, but you're going to learn so much when you just take that next step and try to build something, even if it's not for real. Like try to build your own personal website. Try to play around with a small app or whatever makes you happy. I think at this point, I would try to eliminate the pressure of like, oh my God, I need to get a job as a product manager. Like just make it fun. Just do something that you enjoy. So this way it doesn't feel like a task. Obviously, at some point, once you start liking it and you're like, oh my God, I just use this template to create this website, but I have no idea about design. How do I understand some of the basic principles behind that? Or the copy. How do I make this copy so it's more enticing for people to register, whatever it is? Then it's almost going to be more natural. Obviously, there's only so much that you can do by yourself. And that's why I decided to start product school, because it's important to have mentors in your life, and not just mentors to help you get that first job. I think having someone or people that you can rely on, it's important throughout your entire career. And for us, we decided to be like, okay, if I want to learn to really become a great product manager, who are the best people I can learn from? So I think there's also a lot of confusion around who is a good mentor. The same way it's hard to know what is the right content, I think it's also hard to know who is the right mentor or who is the right mentor for you. So for us, the solution is, okay, what are the products that we admire the most? What are the organizations that are the most advanced in building this product management practice? Because product management became cool relatively in the last, 6 to 10 years. And when I started product school 6 years ago, people would ask me, product what? Is this a coding bootcamp or how does it work? So we've come a long way. But there are organizations that they've been doing this for a longer period of time. So for us, those are like Google, LinkedIn, Salesforce, Yelp, Airbnb, incredible organizations whose CEOs are actually product people. So they get it. And we just decided to ask these product leaders if they would like to participate somehow in a flexible schedule. And the incredible thing is that most of them said yes. So it's like, okay, there is something here, because the same way a lot of aspiring product managers are struggling to know how to get started, there's also a huge percentage of product leaders who resonate with that problem. They didn't have a mentor. There was no product school or similar when they got the job. So they also want to help contribute to the community. So we are in between, connecting the dots really. And the way I like to do it is as free as possible. So if you look at our community, like all of the events that we organize, conferences, books, discussion forums, job portals, you name it, they are free and available to anyone. And I believe in that concept of paying it forward and allowing people to get started. And then, hey, you can always decide if you want to take a further commitment, or you just had enough and you want to go by yourself, or if you found another alternative. But I think that 0 to 1 step, it's pivotal and can change a lot of people's careers. We shouldn't try to just, monetize or be greedy there. I think it's more about let's build together. Let's make sure that, that we build value for everyone. And then we can think about ways to capture part of the value in a way that it's also consistent, and we can also reinvest in the growth of the community.
And those are some fire comments. If you're listening right now and you liked what Carlos said, press that light bulb insightful button so that we know that you enjoy what Carlos is saying. So bring on the support, everyone. But you brought on the point that, a lot of the product leaders or a lot of the CEOs, right, at these companies that you reached out to have a product background, right? And that goes for yourself too. And when you're starting product school, you had a product management background. And so what advice do you have for product managers or even aspiring product managers who are interested in pursuing entrepreneurship or founding their own company, just like how you have done?
Yeah, well, first of all, you guys are lucky. because now it's probably the best time in history to build digital products. And there's a lot of resources out there and people willing to help. So you are there. You just need to obviously follow through. And the same way before I said, when you're trying to learn how a skill, in this case, how to build products, I'd like to make it more into a game. So there's no pressure. And at the same time, obviously there's some commitment. Building a company, it's hard and it's not for everyone. So I would say,
Oh, Grace, it's not just me, right?
and you still don't have a website, right? And you will build it, and now you are involving more.
I hope it's not just me.
I think we lost Carlos.
Yeah. Hey everyone, technical difficulties, but Carlos will be back very soon.
In the meantime, feel free to go to slido.com and type in the hashtag buds, and you could submit your questions for Carlos for the Q&A, which is actually coming up right now once Carlos comes back.
Hey Carlos, nice to join us.
Sorry, I was speaking alone. Where did I cut off?
You're so passionate about what you're talking about.
Where did I cut off?
You were going about what is it? Is it the best time to build those products? Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, you guys are lucky because you're best time in history to build digital products, and there's a lot of information out there and mentors and resources. So with that being said, similar to what we discussed about how to start building products, you have to make it fun and almost a game. So it doesn't feel like another job. I think of entrepreneurship the same way. I think it's important to, maybe you can even start consider it as a side gig, like you guys did with Product Buds. It's a bunch of cool people who had an idea and they started playing together on the side. They decided to build a Slack community. Now you have an email list. You are doing events. You're also talking with other product leaders in the space to involve them. So it doesn't feel like a job. It's natural, and you want to do it, and you want other people to do it in an organic way. So I think that's a very easy way to start. Because if you just put too much pressure on yourself, like, oh my God, I need to come up with this genius idea to start a company. You're going to get very frustrated. And then the second thing I think is that whatever you are doing and now building digital products, it's very transferable to building a company. Because what we said before, that company equals product at the very beginning. So there's no rush to start your company tomorrow. I think that there's also a lot of beautiful options, such as, doing internships at incredible companies or in startups or whatever it is. But like, just make sure that whatever you are doing somehow can connect to your ultimate goal. But if you can make it enjoyable, it is much, much better. Like when I started my first company, I wouldn't even call it company because I didn't set it up. I was just, playing around with the internet, buying things here, selling them on eBay. And I realized that it was fun and it was cool. And it got to a point that I go, oh my God, like this is not enough. I actually need to build a website or hire here or there. So it's how I operate. I like to kind of make this easy for everyone so it flows instead of feel like another task on your busy life.
I completely agree with you there, Carlos. When we started Product Buds last month, or not last month, but in May, we didn't think of it as a company. And in some ways, it's still hard for us to wrap our mind around the immense growth of Product Buds and kind of like thinking about scaling up and building a website and enhancing the product that is Product Buds. It's crazy, but it's something we're all so passionate about, just like you and the whole team at Product School are so passionate about. And we truly admire you for that. So thank you for all that you do. And now it's time for us to get into the Q&A portion of today's event. So now we will be taking questions from Slido. So when you're on LinkedIn right now, you can see in the chat box that there's like a link to go to slido.com. If you type in the hashtag buds, you can submit a question for Carlos and vote on your favorite questions as well. Joseph, do you want to ask Carlos the first question that's the most popular on Slido?
Yeah, for sure. So we have a good amount of questions here. And the first one's with 8 upvotes is by Sarah. Go Sarah. How do you foresee product management changing over the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, it's going to change massively because it's at the core of every single organization. And I'm not just talking about a tech company or high-tech company in Silicon Valley. If you think about it, every single company across any industry today that has some sort of ambition to grow is using software to collaborate internally with employees, to offer products or services outside to customers, in some cases to deliver those products or services directly through software. So that is, it's here to stay, it's core. So I'm excited, and I think timing is fantastic for anyone who's considering to get into this, because it might sound like too obvious for some of us if we've spent enough time in product, but the reality is that we are just scratching the surface. So this is growing like crazy.
Really? Okay.
Even during this time, because it goes beyond tech, it goes beyond anything. Like everything is almost a product, and you need someone at some point when the product is big enough to put some order in the house. Traditionally, there was no such a role. So it was like, okay, there's an engineer here that seems to have good ideas. Okay, organize this. Or there's a designer who cares. Okay. But now there's much more structure around. There is something called product, which it's not a question anymore. Like we all accept and understand why it's important. And now the next step is, okay, product is more than just management. If you look at product teams today, they're fairly complex in some cases. You have, first of all, you have career ladders for product managers, right? Like aspiring associate product manager, senior product manager, and so on. Even up to the top, chief product officer. This role didn't exist before. It used to be almost a sub-function of marketing or engineering. Now there's a chief product officer who reports directly to CEO. This is not a marketing thing. This is not an engineering thing. It's product. In many cases, the CEOs come from that product background. So that also pushes the discipline further. And examples of that are Google, Airbnb, Dropbox, some of the most innovative companies in the world, Apple, of course, Amazon. But one of the things within the product organization is that it's not just about product management. You have product marketing, product design, product operations, project management, technical program manager. There's much more that is being created now. And I think it's not that you have to memorize every single option, but it's good to know when you are trying to learn more about this discipline, that the same way there are different ways to get into that. You don't have to be a software engineer or an MBA only to do it. There's so many different ways and there's no right answer. Once you join product, there are also so many different options at your fingertips. It's not just, I want to be a product manager. Like we get that sometimes, people who come to us and say, I want to be a product manager at Google. And like, that's great, fantastic. Like it makes sense. But let me show you, first of all, the path to get there, because there's a strong chance you can do it. But also let me show you other options you may not know that you might like even more.
Wait, I have a quick follow-up with that. That's not in our Slido, but what are some of those more uncommon product paths that you can discover once you break into product management, like you mentioned?
For people to break into product?
So once you break into product management, what are some of those unknown paths, like you mentioned, that people are unaware of?
Okay, so there are 3 key paths. One is, there's one that is entrepreneurship. I've seen a lot of product managers at large organizations that at some point decide to build something for themselves instead of for somebody else. And that's legit. And you can see that all the time, companies such as Google, Facebook, Uber, and so on. It's an incredible school. You are impacting many users. You are working with very smart people. You are doing a lot of meaningful work. So it makes sense that a lot of people will decide to create their own things. I've seen the other way around. A lot of founders who might not have the traditional degree in product or in engineering, but they are just so curious. They've learned so much. They move so fast that large organizations also want to acquire them to become product managers. So that's kind of goes back and forth all the time. But then let's say within the traditional corporate ladder, you start usually as an associate product manager, if that's an option. Other companies don't have that level and they start with product manager directly. Then you have senior product manager, which in those roles are all you are an individual contributor. You're working directly with engineers, designers, and business teams, most likely marketing. At some point, the next level is what we said before, group product manager, which is a manager of product managers. The other option at the same level, but very different, is principal product manager or product lead, which is still an individual contributor. You are not going to be managing product managers, but you're obviously going to be recognized for the work that you do, and the comp is fairly similar to a group product manager. But if you decide to take the management route, let's say after group product manager, it's typically director of product, senior director of product, vice president of product, chief product officer. And the biggest difference in terms of skill sets that you will need to acquire as you grow in your career, I would say at the very beginning, it's fairly tactical. You have to learn a lot of hard skills on how to build a roadmap, how to run A/B test, how to conduct a user research, how to create a proper product requirements document, work with engineers. There are some skills, there are some tools, there's some lingo that you need to master. There's no way around it. But as you realize that this is not just about what you can do but how you can empower others, then is when emotional intelligence and other soft skills play a key role. Because you are either going to learn that the hard way, or you are not going to be successful. So this, you have to learn more about setting up the right communication processes, documentation, just getting buy-in, over communicating with people, hiring people, because at some point you're also going to be in charge of bringing other product managers, set them up for success. And all of that is, in my opinion, fascinating, because it's almost like building your own company within a company. But it's something that, unless you are in a position where you're feeling that pain, it's fairly hard to figure out.
Wow. Carlos, you just left us with so many different things to think about. And it's really going to shape the way that many of us think about product management, because just like you said, there are people who come in very steadfast in, all right, I just want to be a product manager. But there's so many other directions you can head in, so many different options you can explore. And just like Carlos has been saying this whole time, you are always a lifelong learner, meaning that you're learning every day, but you should also be open-minded to new opportunities. So for everyone listening, keep that in mind and jot down that note as a reminder to yourself in your product journey. And so let's transition into another question from Slido. And this next question is from Joseph. How does product school think about access to certification opportunities for those from underserved or underrepresented backgrounds?
That's a great question. And that's something that I've been thinking a lot, especially during this time with everything going on. And yesterday, actually, we hosted a conference called ProductCon yesterday. It was completely free and available. And we announced our first scholarship program there. So I'm going to repeat it here. We are pledging $500,000 for underrepresented communities in product management to have access to all of on-demand trainings for free. So we have a bunch of free resources that are available to the entire community right away. And then there are some other resources that are paid, but we are making them also free for certain groups. And the way you can apply to those scholarships is just going to productschool.com/scholarships, and you can find all the information there.
We really appreciate you sharing that opportunity. And also for people who don't know, Product School has a fantastic YouTube channel. That's actually how I first learned about Product School. And just typing up Product School on YouTube, watching so many webinars that are completely free to access from some of the world's best PMs. I've learned a lot in my PM journey through that resource. So thank you so much, Carlos. And we really look forward to seeing product management becoming more accessible to people, especially in this time.
Yeah, and jumping onto that, like ProductCon was one of the few virtual events that I attended, when quarantine started, and just being able to hear from the different product leaders, at a bunch of different companies really opened my eyes to the world of product management, and just gave me different insights and perspectives on this new topic that I was very new to. So if you guys see that coming up, definitely try to attend. I'm sure they'll have more product cons coming up in the future. But moving on to our next question, this is from Anonymous. How do you recommend transitioning from a non-technical intern to product management at a big tech company?
Oh, one of my favorite topics too.
Perfect.
So I obviously don't have all the context, but in general, let's say you are not an engineer and someone told you that, hey, product managers are former software engineers. First of all, that's absolutely not true. It was the case though. And also there are certain companies that still live by those standards because the products that they build are very technical. So if you are building a super complex voice recognition device that requires tons of machine learning, where it makes sense that you as a product manager need to know about that technology. But that's not the main case. Most of the companies these days, even if they are fairly complex, they also have a bunch of other things to take care of, which is your users, and understand data, and have empathy for your team, and understand design. And by the way, there's a lot of technology out there that is becoming more and more visual and easier to use. Like back in the day, really, like you wanted to create a database and access that database, you had to learn SQL and you had to be fairly, proficient on it. Now, there are so many visual collaboration tools, very visual product analytics tools that allow you to access the data just by asking a regular question as if you were asking a friend. So the bar is being lower in terms of technical requirements, which is good news for people who don't come from an engineering background. Now, with that being said, this is not an excuse for people to be like, okay, well, now that I don't have to code, life is good. Well, no, you also have to learn how to really, really work with your customers, how to understand the data, because it's not just about running a SQL query. It's about picking the right metrics. It's getting this information. It's interpreting the information. So then you can make the right decision, right? So forget about that you have to be an engineer in order to be a product manager. The same way I would forget the fact that, you have to be an MBA in order to be a product manager. That's not the case. However, you really have to show certain skill. And in product school, we always talk about 3 key skills. And this is based on data from our own students. One is what we call technical background. Technical background, again, is not just being an engineer, but it's also feeling comfortable enough, having conversations with your engineers and you to understand the technologies that you are using and, like how to break down a problem into smaller pieces. Obviously, it's not expected that you know how things are going to happen, because that's why you have a cool engineering team that is going to help you, but you have to be there to help them define what and in which order, and also make sure that they are set up for success in case they need something to be more efficient, happy, productive, whatever it is. So that's number 1. Number 2 is what we call communication skills. So this applies especially for people who come more from business backgrounds. They may feel maybe more comfortable interacting with customers because they've done it more than engineers. So it's funny because the same way a lot of non-engineers feel intimidated, thinking that they need to learn more about coding. A lot of non-engineers feel intimidated because they think that they need to learn or they don't know how to interact with customers, design, and other stuff. So for people who come from business, from engineering in this case, communication skills is key. And the same way you don't need an MBA, you also don't need to be a public speaker or a book author, but you truly need to spend time with customers, which means blocking your calendar. And sometimes instead of doing something yourself, spend that time training someone so they can do it. Even though it's not going to be according to your standards the first time, you are investing in your team internally to help them, but also externally to really interact with customers. So that's number 2. And the number 3 is what we call industry domain. So this is very important to know, especially for people who are trying to get that first job. Let's say you are working in an industry, it's car insurance, and you are selling a product that is car insurance. If you don't have a car and you don't care about insurance and you don't have a driver's license, it's going to be very hard for you to relate to that particular problem. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be a power user of the product that you are building, because I get it, especially in B2B, it's not always the case, but you definitely need to be very passionate and knowledgeable about that industry. You really need to care about what's going on, because in reality, nobody's going to care more than that product manager. You are going to be there inspiring your team most of the, and I think obviously in an ideal world, everyone in the company should care about the problem of the company. But the reality is that, some roles, they just don't care. They might care about something else, the technical challenge, the visual aspect, whatever it is. And that's legit. But as a product manager, you cannot choose. You have to really care about the problem holistically and make sure that everyone is feeling inspired about it. So if you don't believe in it, first of all, it's going to be hard for the recruiter to give you a chance. But number two, even if you get a chance, it's going to be hard for your team to believe in you. So those three are critical: technical, a minimum technical background, minimum communication skills, and minimum domain expertise. So just to wrap this up, we get sometimes people who say, hey, I'm a marketer. I'm working on an e-commerce company and I want to become a product manager. And I say, fantastic. Let's look at what you have already that it's valuable for that position. Because a lot of the jobs in product, even though they say it's an entry-level position, they still require a few years of experience. So it's almost a chicken and an egg problem. It's like, okay, I want to get an entry-level job, but you're telling me that this entry-level job requires 3 years of experience. So how does it work, right? Well, the key here is that a lot of the experience that you have already might qualify for that product management experience, even if your previous title wasn't product manager. So we have to look deep into, okay, marketing, fantastic. Let's look at what it is that you did in collaboration with product. Let's see what you did, how you make your users win, how you grew not only the top of the funnel, but let's look at some of the metrics that you impacted in the middle and in the bottom of the funnel that can help me understand that you can be a good product person. And then let's look at industries. Let's look at, obviously, your current company. There may be an internal opportunity, which is great. I know it's not always the case, but you should ask. You can always get a no, and that's fine. Let's look at alternative products. Let's look broadly about the industry. So if you work in e-commerce and you sell shoes online, you can also look at other e-commerce companies that sell something completely different, because at the end of the day, the mechanics of e-commerce apply. But if you are a marketer in an e-commerce company and you tell me that you want to be a product manager at a high-tech company, it's almost impossible, because you are trying to switch roles and industries at the same time. So what I would say is look at this as a matrix, which you can do 2 steps. You can either switch industries in a horizontal way, lateral move. So you can say, hey, I hate my industry. I hate e-commerce for whatever reason. I really love car insurance. I'm just making this up. Well, maybe you can become a marketer at an industry that you like, and then from there, try to make the switch. Or if you really are more industry agnostic, and the next step for you is to really switch roles and become a product manager, look within your industry, because that would be easier for a recruiter to believe that some of the experience that you have already is applicable to the new role that you are trying to get.
Definitely. That is some very solid advice there, Carlos. And myself, I come from a marketing background. And in interviews, I have been asked about, all right, so why are you making the switch from marketing to product management? And I really had to emphasize in those interviews that there were a number of transferable skills from the skill set of a marketer to the skill set of a product manager. And being able to sell your story and your narrative on your LinkedIn, on your resume, during interviews, all of that is so, so important. And so for everyone listening, no matter what background you come from, whether you come from a technical background, non-technical background, find what skills you already have and see if they're transferable to a PM role. And if you have skill gaps, fill them in, just like Carlos said. And along the way, find mentors and analyze very carefully what industry you want to go into and what products you want to work on. Wow, that was very powerful. Thank you so much, Carlos. And we have a minute left before we end this event. So Joseph, do you want to leave us with any final words? And then Carlos, you can do that as well.
Yes, I was gonna actually take this for one last quick question that Carlos can take on that's gonna benefit everyone watching. This is from, let's see. What advice you received early in your career that really shaped the way you think today? And this can be related to product management or just career related, whatever you got.
So one thing that really changed my life, one is I really didn't let anybody to just let me down. I knew very early in my career. I didn't know my solution, but I knew that I wanted to do something different than, you know, what I was studying back in the day in computer science. Then I knew that I wanted to come to Silicon Valley. Then I knew that I didn't have a perfect plan, but I not always got a yes, right? And it's not easy, and it's part of the fun. So surround yourself by positive people. I think it's very important. The people who can encourage you. And when you say this crazy idea, they say, hey, I don't know, but go for it. You know, like that might not work out, but that leads to something else. So being positive in general will attract other positive people. That's number one. And then on that topic, attracting positive people, I think I was lucky enough in my career to attract mentors. And we've been talking a lot about like specifics, right? Things that you can do to help you grow in your career. And you can do it yourself. It's true. And the information is out there. But if you could have an accountability partner, call it instructor, call it mentor, call it whatever it is, but just put it on the calendar and block some time and make sure that you are making some progress and you have a mirror that is telling you, hey, you know, ask more than yes or no, kind of ask you questions to make you think. And by the way, a lot of those mentors are free. They're itching, you know, they're hungry to give back because they're in your position, like we're in your position not so long ago. So obviously it's hard, but if you have the chance or the opportunity, go for it, or don't be afraid of asking that person that you like, because you may be surprised and you may get a yes.
That's a great point. Thank you so much for that, Carlos. And with that, we're right on time. We're still about 12:01. So thank you everyone for tuning in. If you liked what Carlos has said so far, go ahead and put that heart button, that love button for everyone to see. Yeah, we'd love to see your support. But yeah, Carlos, thanks for sharing your words of wisdom. I know we cut off in the middle, but I think everything you shared with us was so valuable, and we're lucky to have you here in our community. And it's really great to see you working with Product School to give back to the community as well. So
thank you guys. And feel free, for anyone listening, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. If you have any questions or there's anything I can do to help, feel free to check out our community and enjoy our free resources. I'm also part of your Slack community. So if anyone wants to ping me there as well, I'd be more than happy to help. Thank you guys.
Thank you. And reminder for everyone to post on LinkedIn with what you learned from today's event. Tag Carlos, tag Product School, and tag Product Buds on your LinkedIn post, and share with everyone what you learned from today's event. We love and appreciate every single one of you. And thank you all for coming. Thank you, Carlos, again. And thank you, Joseph, for spearheading the organization of this event. Awesome. Bye, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Bye.